Hey folks, this is Mike Antile at Sailfish Solar. I just wanted to give you an update as to what's happening with the net metering legislation in Tallahassee. As we predicted on a video that we made last month, basically what happened today was the bill sponsor filed an amendment that would create what appears to be a glide path, is what they call it, a glide path for phasing out net metering for solar installations. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. One of the other things that you probably saw, again, we predicted it last month, the utilities did agree last week that they were going to extend the grandfathering of existing systems to 20 years instead of the 10 that they had originally written. So if you have a system today, or if you get a system installed by the end of this year, by the end of 2022, that retail rate, that one-for-one even exchange will last for the next 20 years, and you'll be grandfathered in. But if there's one thing, I just want to give you a couple updates. If there's one thing that today's committee hearing really demonstrated, the fix is still very much in. The fix, truthfully speaking, was in before the bill was even filed. Today's hearing demonstrated once again that if you kind of say something enough times, it becomes the truth. You know, if you repeat something over and over and over and over, eventually it becomes something that people embrace as the truth, especially when your mantra is backed up by millions and millions and millions of dollars of campaign contributions to the people that you are speaking this untruth to, which again eventually becomes the truth. I hate to say it, but this industry really lost this battle before the bill was even filed. Again, no disrespect to the industry association, but they were kind of asleep at the wheel. I think what they did is they made a very common mistake in politics over the past several years, which is to confuse access with influence. So just because the utility companies will let you take pictures with them and put you in, a PR blurb or whatever the case is, maybe bring you to a meeting or this, that, or the other thing, it does not mean that they're actually going to let you have influence when it comes to what type of legislation they're writing against the solar industry. So, again, not the end of the world. We will work with them, moving forward, and hopefully they'll be able to provide a more stable platform as we move forward. But the point is, on this one, the fix is very much in, and that is, I think, what today's committee hearing demonstrated more than anything. The real rub, with today's amendment, though, the glide path is wonderful, and what a glide path means is basically they're saying, look, for this year and the next year, through existing systems through the end of 2022 will be grandfathered in at a retail rate, one-for-one exchange. You buy for 11 cents, you sell for 11 cents. And then moving forward, the glide path means that the year after that, it'll be like 75%. The year after that, it'll be 60% of retail rate, and so on and so on and so on until eventually this number works its way to zero. But one of the things that they keep saying over and over, which is simply not true, is that this is a subsidy. This is not a subsidy. In fact, the solar industry should be using that to our advantage and calling it what we provide as a subsidy, because it is the small residential and small rooftop solar systems that are subsidizing the utility grid, and we're subsidizing our fellow ratepayers. But nevertheless, that's not something that is spoken enough, because we don't have dozens and dozens of lobbyists running around Tallahassee, with the ability to kind of repeat this mantra that simply is not true. So the rub with the glide path that they've created, where we kind of step down every year, is that there's also language inside of this that says once they achieve 6.5% of market penetration, that they can accelerate the rulemaking process and basically do away with their own glide path. So the question is, well, first of all, what exactly is this math based on for market penetration? And then secondly, the point is, if that is accurate, that's market penetration for the entire solar industry. So for an example, a big box store like Walmart could decide, okay, we're going to do solar next year, especially in light of the fact that net metering is going to go away. They put a 2 megawatt system on the rooftop of all their stores across the state of Florida, and we hit 6.5% market penetration a lot quicker than we were expecting, and all of a sudden this entire system goes away, except of course for the folks that are grandfathered in. Again, the lie becomes the truth when they talk about this cost shift, and they talk about a cost shift to low-income ratepayers. And the reality is nothing could be further away from the truth. One of the things that the bill sponsor said today, he had the audacity to say that the possibility of an additional $5 to $8 per month in 10 years from now was more of a concern and willing to put this bill through to basically, to kill solar for low income people who today could be saving $40 or $50 a month by financing solar systems for less than the cost of their current utility bill. So they're saying a potential, and again, where this math is coming from, they've yet to actually demonstrate to us, but they're saying the potential for an increase of $5 to $8 10 years from now is worth killing a program that can save somebody $40 or $50 today, not to mention the fact that that $40 or $50 in savings is going to go up every year as the cost of utility power continues to go up every year. So the savings are going to grow, and again, that's what's being done away with, or that could be done away with if this bill goes through the way it's written right now. Again, there's just no math at all to support this. There are no studies. I would think, call me a layman here, even though I've been spent many, many years in Tallahassee and dealing with these policy issues, as anybody who knows my background knows. But in layman's terms, I would think that a cost study, would actually be the first step before we actually started making laws. They keep going around talking about cost shift and subsidies and cost shift and subsidies, these buzzwords that do not hold up when it comes to actual real math. Let's put some real math behind it. Let's actually come up with a study to show that there actually is a cost shift and there actually is a subsidy taking place. But the reality is they don't want to go through that study because they know that it will be proven that solar, rooftop, residential, distributed solar, and small commercial solar subsidizes the utility companies, not the other way around. So they don't want that study because that's ultimately what it would show. So like I said, there's really no math to support this. One of the best parts of today, and I don't mean to be so cynical, is the fix is so in, right? There's inside of today's amendment, there's just this egregious money grab on behalf of the utilities that isn't even mentioned. Like, that's how deep the fix is on this one. Everybody basically goes, yeah, okay, the money grab is going to take place. Let's just move on to something we might actually get to fix. And so basically what the utility companies are saying is they know in the second half of this year, in 2022, that there's going to be a surge in demand for solar because this net metering program is going to go away. But this bill allows them to go to the ratepayers and recoup their lost revenue. Now, how they're actually going to, calculate that one is going to be interesting to see. But basically what they're saying is we as a utility company are going to lose revenue, so we want to tax our ratepayers for the revenue that we're going to be losing. And these are the same people who perpetrate the care about the cost shift to customers as some, and they have this blatant money grab in the bill, and it's just so baked into the political process, if I am being cynical, that it doesn't even get mentioned at the meeting. It really is mind-blowing in a way. In another way, it's kind of to be expected. So like I said, where is the study about the cost shift? Because of all the studies that I've read, Carl Robigo and countless others that have put out studies about the solar benefits to the grid, all the studies that I have read state that we are nowhere close to anything that resembles a cost shift. And again, it's just the opposite. Rooftop solar is subsidizing the utility grid, and my solar system benefits my neighbor's house. If you haven't seen that, we have a video about that, which will pop up at the end of this video, and you should really dig into that as well. If you read the Miami Herald article this week and several others, there's all sorts of subsidies that the utilities are okay with. The new electric vehicle infrastructure subsidy that ratepayers are paying for. When new businesses or new agricultural facilities come to town or they need upgrades, it's a subsidy that the ratepayers and the taxpayers are paying for. When they want to build their solar farms, again, the ratepayers are paying for that. Advanced cost recovery unto itself is an amazing topic. If you got 5 minutes, Google what type of money was spent, ratepayer money was spent for the Crystal River nuclear plant, which isn't even going to go back into effect, but they still managed to tax their ratepayers billions and billions and billions of dollars for a utility mistake. And the point is, there's countless subsidies which they're okay with, and this one isn't even a subsidy. In fact, it's the opposite of that, but of course, that's what they're going after. Why are they going after that? Well, I think we know the golden rule at this point. The golden rule is every kilowatt that you produce on your house is a kilowatt that they don't get to sell you, and that is precisely why this amendment exists. It's precisely why these elected officials are going through this process, and candidly speaking, it's why this bill is going to pass, because again, they have way more influence in Tallahassee than the solar industry could ever hope to have. Another idea, just one last point that was really underscored in today's committee, is just the basic idea of public discourse and public input in the political process. I'm sorry, again, to be cynical, but it's just such a joke. The utilities and the bill sponsors, I mean, they are just given unlimited time and access to the elected officials, and their unlimited time to basically present their misinformation. And the people, the normal residents and the normal small business owners who have to take off a day of work or 2 days of work and drive 7 hours to Tallahassee, they get 90 seconds to talk. And it just blows my mind. And then not only that, but they're even, first it started out as 2 minutes, then it got cut to 90 seconds because they were running out of time. And the reason they were running out of time is because they spent so much time listening to the misinformation from the utilities prior to that. And so somebody drives 7 hours to have input in their political process and talk to their elected officials, and they're told they get 90 seconds to speak. It's an embarrassment for our state legislature, and it's an embarrassment to public discourse, period. But the power of the people is what can fix that. We just need to have a concentrated effort. And that's where I want to really kind of steer this conversation. I hope that you join us in steering the conversation moving forward. It's not all gloom and doom. The best thing we can do right now is, look, accept the inevitable and move on, right? Let's start talking about good policy. Let's start talking about what public policy around the renewable energy industry should look like. Here's an example: third-party power purchase agreements, PPAs. If you don't know what that is, check out the Floridians for Solar Choice Amendment in 2016. Of course, the utility spent tens and tens of millions of dollars to defeat that. We are one of 4 states that specifically outlaw this type of transaction. So 46 states you're allowed to do this, and 4 states you're not. Florida is one of them. Basically what it means is that like an owner of a condo association or a strip mall or a commercial facility can put solar on the roof and they can distribute the solar to the tenants of their facility. It would be a massive game changer for the state of Florida, and of course the utilities fight it tooth and nail because of the golden rule, right? Here's another easy fix. Like it blows my mind. You know, there's still kind of a debate where people say, is it illegal to be off the grid in Florida? And the reality is it's not illegal, but it's against building code. So if we're all in support of good public policy, technology exists right now that you're more than capable of living off the grid. And the utilities, they always go on and on about their obligation to serve, they call it. Well, here's an idea. Let's remove that requirement. As a private citizen, as a private property owner, as a free American, a free Floridian, if I choose that I don't want to be connected to the utility company, why is it that the state legislature and the building code feels the need that they have to force me to do that? I thought this was the freedom state. So here's an idea. Governor DeSantis, let's make Florida the freedom state. I'm all in on that one. Let's remove that requirement from the building code. If we want to live off grid, we can. And then the utilities and their obligation to serve doesn't even affect me. It doesn't even affect kind of what goes on at my house. Again, it is my private property. I don't know why the state legislature feels the need that they have to tell me to be connected to the utility grid. Let's move the conversation away from the utilities, period, when it comes to moving policy. The meter is where they influence free citizens. And so if we can move our conversation away from the meter, I think the better off we'll both be in this situation. And so, you know, rest assured, they'll fight that too. Of course they'll fight that tooth and nail. Again, the golden rule, their very existence depends on it. If you get removed from the grid, that's one less customer. Every kilowatt you put on your roof is one less kilowatt that they don't get to sell you. And that is the bottom line. That is what this is all about. So I hope this is helpful for you. Please watch the other video that'll pop up here. Please give this video a like, and please consider subscribing to us for more updates. We don't mean to be cynical, but we also want to be realistic about what's happening. So let's stay eyes wide open. Let's move forward in a positive manner. And let's start talking about good public policies, because there is plenty of room for public policy in the state of Florida that isn't even seeing the light of day because it's getting smothered by the utility companies. Okay, give this video a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll look forward to giving you more updates as we move on down this path. Thanks for stopping by.